There you go. Hit record.
Good job. That was all right.
Yeah, it's really good. Like it's you can see why Mike Pedro's just on here. You can see why Mike wants to focus on a few other elements because you kind of just keep. It's a lot to take in.
There's a lot. Hey, Pedro, how are you?
Oh, mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Hello, Professor. How are you? Hello, guys.
Hey, I'm good.
Hello.
How are you doing? Look at that. You're very tanned. You've been out in the sun surfing, huh?
I'm trying to keep active. How are you guys going?
Yeah, good,
Yeah,
mate.
we're good.
I'm good. Good.
We're good.
Awesome.
We've got Benjamin's on the call as well already. You going to show us your face, Benjamin, or is it a Sunday morning that you don't want to?
Yeah. We have a hiding. It's okay.
He's probably not there. He's probably gone to get a coffee or something. So.
Yeah, well, I should have got another coffee. It's all right.
Do you want to drive again, Beats?
I'm happy to. Were you happy with how that went last time?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. I've got it ready. I won't click screen share yet. I'll wait a little bit.
I definitely need a JUDO New South Wales background, Beats.
Yeah.
How did you make it? It's just a JPEG?
Honestly, I did it because I downloaded an image and it didn't work. So while you were talking to Rob, I downloaded an image. I went Google images JUDO New South Wales and downloaded it and like hit it up. Yeah.
I might try and make us one during the week, so we've got a proper one that's like in the corner or something. Looks good there.
Yeah. Because that's it looks all right, but it's kind of zoomed in too much.
Yeah, I'll make us one during the week.
All right, cool.
And you can look like a newsreader.
I got the moustache for it. Yeah.
God, it's that hideous time coming up again, which I love and I support, which is Movember. But oh God, I'm not good with it.
Well prepared in advance.
See, we've got some good mows on here, right? They look good. They look suited. It's when people have them that just shouldn't. Like,
Rob's mow looked great in the last call. I was going to comment on it, but yeah. Yeah.
Peter, you look like you're all over Movember.
I've actually just trimmed it because otherwise the jawbone mic doesn't make a good connection and you can't hear me. So.
That's definitely a COVID problem.
Yes, as is the COVID lock. So excuse the COVID locks. I haven't seen a barber since May.
I think that is the one thing. One thing my friends have said to me is they miss the most is the hairdresser. And I'm like, well, our hairdresser hasn't closed down here yet, so we've been not too bad.
This is a backyard job actually. This is a flatmate in this in the backyard. Yeah.
Well, just be grateful that you can, Beats. Not everyone can. So. Well, this has been my lockdown go-to, which I only just took off because I didn't think it was the very professional.
Wow.
But
yeah,
this is more me right now. This is what Beats usually sees.
Yeah.
I like this style.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it on because I always just flick my hair around, so you can cope with me having my hat on, right?
Yeah, sure, cope.
The CEO who wears a baseball hat, like
so down to earth. It's good. It's good.
Normal. That's what we like. You don't want to see what's on my feet right now. I've got my work boots on.
All right.
So for those who don't know, I live on a farm. And we're currently renovating and the yard is what we're doing right now. And so I was like, I'll just duck in for a couple of hours and do this and then I'll come straight back out. So I literally got my Blundstones on my feet.
I've got no shoes on, so I don't know if that's any better.
Yeah, true. That's all right. Who cares? I did when I was going for the job with judo. It was really cold, like it was through winter. Yeah. And I just openly said, I'm wearing my UGG boots. I'm not going to lie. And I think that's why I got the job. And every time we met up, because we met up quite a few times, they'd say, Beck, have you got your UGG boots on? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm not going to lie.
I'm going to tell you that the UGG boots changed my life since I moved to Australia. I didn't know such thing in Brazil. So I got a Ugg boots as a birthday present, and that just changed my winter. I'm so glad.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
Classic.
you're getting soft, man.
It's what in
We do
Brazil.
not have cold winters. I don't know if anyone's from the UK. We do not have cold winters. Ours are like a
That's true.
mild coldness, I think, by comparison.
Mild drizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I still suffer a little bit in the winter, especially when I'm gonna train and someone just step on top of my foot on the first uchikomi and just like pulls the skin. That's
Scott, you might want to move your camera a little bit down. You look like you're swimming in your ocean right now.
Yeah, it looks really.
It's quite funny. If I could send you a photo, I would. Oh, there we go.
Is that me? Is that me?
Stop sweating now.
That's better. It's so funny seeing everyone's. We're going to get going in a couple of minutes, guys. I'll just let everyone in. See everyone's Zooms and the people who just get it really wrong. Did anyone see the one of the High Court judge or something in the US that some had changed him to a cat, and he couldn't get it back, and he's like in this like proceeding, and he's like, "I'm not a cat, I am a person." And he had no idea how to change it back. It was absolute gold. Guys, if I can just ask one thing while you're sitting here, just check your names on your screen. If you don't know how to change it, that's fine. Just send me a quick note in the chat, because that's what I marked the roll from, to make sure that, you know, you were here. So I was saying to the other group previously, I've had Superman on because he couldn't change it from his son's account. So he's like, "I'm not Superman, I'm Bob." I'm like, "Oh, that's okay. That's good to know."
Mine's come up as Debbie Muir, and I'm definitely not Debbie Muir.
Well, that's actually what prompted me. I was like, that was all. However, we are an inclusive sport. We do not judge.
Hey, Beck, can you, you're controlling the Zoom and it's not letting me access screen share?
Oh, that's because I may have not given you that permission just yet.
Yeah. May I please have permission?
Oh, since you asked so nicely. There you go.
Right, cool. You want me to set it up already, or you want to?
Yeah, here you go. So guys, we should only keep you for about 45 minutes today. I know for a lot of you this is, you know, Groundhog Day, but we do have to do it. So thanks in advance for your time. Yeah, I'm going to do kind of the setup, and then Beats will kick in with the coaching side of things. So we've got a mixture of people updating today, and also I think there's about 3 or 4 people who are doing the senior coach for the first time. So there are another couple of elements which we will pull out and send to you separately, as well as another couple of modules. We just didn't want to keep you online for like 2 hours today. So the section around periodization stuff, which Beats will touch on, we will be filming and sending to you to watch with some just basic questions after it. And the reason we're doing it is we're working with Mike Griffiths from Judo Australia. We're kind of running a bit of a pilot program to move all the coaching accreditation to e-learning as much as we can. So we're taking a bit of a punt here. Normally you would do all this sort of stuff in person, but we're trying to help get coaches reaccredited without having to come to Sydney all the time to actually do it. So I know that's music to a lot of regional people's ears, but also too, it just, when your accreditation comes up, you can just get in and get it done, as opposed to having to wait for a weekend to do it. Beats will talk about as well that we've been trialing doing the physical assessment online. So Beats literally did a couple of Zoom calls with some coaches yesterday and over the last few days, testing could he actually assess them online, and it's worked really well. So Mike is happy for us to continue to do that. So just some background as to why things might not be perfect right now, but we certainly would appreciate your feedback as we go through the process over the next few months. As updating coaches as well, we really want to encourage you all to make sure you're looking out for some new coaches coming through. We have 45 currently in the Pathway program at the moment. at assistant level, senior coach level, and also coach judo level. So if you've got some time to take some people under your wing a bit, it would be really great to be able to do that, even if they're not from your club. And you'll see the reasons why when we go through this. All right, well, we've started anyway. So sorry, I didn't introduce myself properly. So I'm Beck Hamilton. I'm taking over from Phil in the CEO role. If everyone wants to have a beer one day or a coffee, I'm happy to tell you my background, which is largely in sports administration and senior management. And prior to that, a big amount of time spent working in the consumer world in strategic planning and giving people a really good experience with your product. So a little bit different to what you used to, but seems to be working well so far. No one's asked me to go yet. So hopefully we're going to be on the right track coming out of COVID. So I'm going to talk through the judo pathways, just more so that you know that there is a pathway where you're at right now and where you might want to go, but also knowing that there's some people coming in behind you as well. We will talk about the reaccreditation process and things you need to do, and then just some next steps and any questions. Because we are a smaller group, we're more than happy for you to ask questions as we go. Just raise your hand for those who don't know how to do it. If you just go to reactions down the bottom, there's a thing that says raise your hand, and you'll see a little hand come up. I'll keep an eye out for that as we go. Veets will also see it come up and we can ask the question straight away. So just take yourself off mute. To remove the hand, you literally go in and hit lower hand and then it will disappear. Yeah. Great, let's go. So this is the pathing pathway. Did I say that right? Coaching pathway from Judo Australia, which we are following as much as possible. Because we want to make sure that everyone's aligned. And welcome to anyone from interstate as well. I think we've got some ACT guys on today. So we've got probably about 30 new assistant coaches coming through, which some of you may have started at. We've got, maybe 15 or so coach judos coming through and maybe 3 or 4 senior coaches. Because I think everyone here today is reaccrediting their senior coach. If anyone's interested in kind of moving to the next step, we'd love to hear from you. We certainly...
That's what I'm doing, Beck, is
okay,
cool. Level 1
Great.
coach.
Yep.
And rather than reaccrediting at level 1, I've decided to do the intermediate principles, etc., to go for the senior coach. I've also got other folk in our club that are doing assistant and coach, so we should have a range.
Yeah, great, perfect. That's what we want to hear, and just knowing that that's happening is really unreal. Like, it's so great. So yeah, if anyone wants to move to that kind of next level, that would be awesome. And you just need to reach out to myself or Veets, and we can put you in touch with the guys at Judo Australia. They kind of take on that particular area. But certainly with 2032 coming up in Brisbane, it's going to be a big area of focus, I know. To make sure that we're really well covered across Australia. But what I would really like to encourage you guys with experience to do is to make sure, like Peter just mentioned, that you find out if there's people in your club in the pathway program. We're going to be making a really big noise around and celebrating the fact that we have people in this program. But having a good mentor beside you, I know we've probably all got one. And having a good coach to help you be a good coach, I think is really, really important. So outside of my work at judo, I'm actually also a level 3 coach with surf lifesaving, in particular in the surf boats. So I know that I've got a few really good people around me who keep me well supported and, flip me over the ear when I need to as well. But, it really is just such an important part of retention of our coaches as well. I find it really rewarding as well. I'm helping a few new girls come through the process as well now too. So that's our process, which we'll continually refer to all the time. Yeah, thanks. The reason we are at Judo New South Wales I have to give real credit to Judo Australia here too. They are with us all the way on this. And essentially our new program is a bit of a pilot for this to run out nationally next year, and we're working with Mike Griffiths, as I've mentioned, on that. The reason we're putting the effort into it is when you look at the heart of the problem of growth, you can't grow unless you have capacity to grow. So there's 2 things that create capacity. One is do I have enough coaches to be able to extend my offering, to be able to have more people on the mat? And does my dojo allow me to actually grow? So I know a lot of our dojos can't actually get any more mat time. So we need to help them find a way to be able to do that. So there are two big things we're going to be tackling with clubs over the next few months, but we're already well on our way with coaches. Now, we just made a general hypothesis that we think one coach could bring in 6 new people or create the capacity to bring in 6 new people, whether that be because you've got 2 people on the mat or whether you've created a new class. So we don't know if this theory is right, but we're certainly going to be tracking this along the way. And I've asked enough experienced people about this to think that 6 is a conservative number. So we want to make sure that, you know, when we get the coaches, we're backing it up and helping people recruit because they've got the capacity. So if we got 40 new coaches through by the end of the year, we're creating capacity, we think, for another 200 new members. That's 10% growth on judo in New South Wales, which is pretty significant. Now, there's lots of elements that feed into this, but as coaches who are reaccrediting and being a part of the system, can you see how important it is to bring new people through with you? Because you're not going to be able to do it yourselves forever. So that's just something we wanted to put out there to you guys as well, to show the importance of coaching in our whole growth strategic plan. Look, do we want to be as big as rugby league? Probably not. Would we like more people doing judo? Yes. So that's where we're headed, certainly as a strategic focus going forward. Yeah. So the framework, and Beats will touch a lot on this when he gets to the actual coaching side of things. Judo Australia's framework, which we are mirroring, is and definitely implementing, I guess is a better word, is on how to coach, not what to coach, and how you do it and effective ways of doing it. And, you know, it's very athlete and member central, which is really great. And I think that a lot of experience in life now are all about the individual rather than kind of the masses. So we want to make sure that as an organisation, Judo Australia is really helping educate you, and a lot of, you know, jumping between the two, we're giving you these seminars to help educate, but there's additional tools that we'll talk about in a second that we're going to ask you to redo, mainly because they've been updated, and it's just a good refresher for you guys. So I, as a surf lifesaver as well, every year have to prove myself as a competent surf lifesaver. And every year they'll teach me something new in my proficiency around whether CPR has changed or, you know, a different signal or whatever. That's just what we want to see reaccreditation as. It's a really positive experience, not a oh God, here I go, I've got to do it again. And I know you will feel it, but please just try and be a bit half full with it, because I guarantee you will learn something every time you do it. So that's our job, is just to support you through the process, make it as seamless as possible. This is our first step, is trying in moving everything to, you can sit with us for 45 minutes on a Sunday rather than coming up for a whole weekend to Sydney to do it, which we do like the social aspect, don't worry, but we'll do that at another time when we don't have to worry about this stuff. And obviously your responsibilities as a coach is to uphold these values, and Beats again talks about this some more, but one of the things that really attracted me to this role, I'm a very values-driven person, and I just love what judo does. I didn't know about this, and I think that we need to actually talk about it some more. But, you know, these values, you are the custodians of the values, and it is your responsibility as a coach and as club managers or whatever role you play in the club to ensure that these are being upheld every time, to ensure that the judo culture lives on. And they're really, really beautiful values. I love them a lot, and I've actually fallen in love with them. I think it's really good. Yeah. The other thing as a coach, and this is something probably the guys who have been coaching a really long time have noticed a real shift in behaviour. Whilst everyone makes a lot of effort around this space, I am seeing that this is just a natural way of life for judo, that we are an inclusive, safe and fun environment for all people. You know, we really just need to make sure that we never say no to anybody. And, you know, whilst we're a part and supported by various programs, there's going to be some new initiatives over the next 6 months that as coaches, we want to support you. So there'll be a couple of sessions like this about dealing with kids with special needs. David Groom and I, one of the board directors, and obviously well-respected athlete and coach, he coaches a young lady with vision impairment. And, you know, we have a couple of clubs who specialise in kids with special needs. So can be quite a daunting prospect when a child walks through the door like that, or an adult. We're not just talking children. So we're going to get them to share their experiences and how they deal with it and different things like that to ensure that we are an inclusive environment. You know, every club should be just open the doors to anyone and be able to feel supported around that. So that's our role, to help you through that over the next few months and beyond. So here's the fun stuff. Remember, half full. So there are some things you need to redo as part of your accreditation. The good thing is you don't have to do all the, what is it, Veets, the big one? Oh, sorry, I'm having a mental blank.
For senior coaches, you don't need to do intermediate coaching principles if you've done it before. If you're reaccrediting as a senior coach, you don't need to do that one again. That's a one-time thing. Yeah,
and that's probably just missing off here, because the last time we did this, sorry, it was just for reaccreditation. But if you are a new coach, that's one of the extra elements you will need to do, but we'll get to it. So you need to tick off, no, it is on there. I did put it on. From a coach judo perspective, you need to do your community coaching principles again, update your first aid, you're working with children to check. Concussion is a big thing in our sport right now. I'm working with Nigel Fricker on our concussion policy. And whilst it feeds down from Judo Australia, what we're trying to add to it is a very practical element about what happens when it happens in front of you, and then helping govern them through their way, like the next few weeks, which are so crucial if someone even is suspected of having any form of concussion. That course that's there, I actually sat through myself just to be able to experience it, and I learnt heaps about it. Not so much, okay, you can tell when someone's been hit, but what happens after that and how do you deal with it as a coach? Because quite often you'll be put in the position to manage them back to the mat. You need to do the level 1 anti-doping course again. That is always changing, so please make sure you do that. Coach Judo also needs to do a lesson plan, which you'll do on your heads, I'm sure. And Veets got a really simple template that you can fill in for that as well. The difference between the senior coach is that intermediate coaching principles. For those updating, you don't need to do it again. It's still the same course, and we've got approval for that. But you do need to make sure the other elements are all up to date. Now, we are currently working with 3 different suppliers around first aid, and 2 of them have an online solution. The problem is they're very expensive. So just stay tuned on that one. I'm taking a proposal to the board to hopefully help with the cost. But again, I just need to get it in front of them at the moment and get some costs approved around it. So wanting to help in every way, shape or form. And online makes it obviously quicker, but they are filling up very fast. So just make sure that because of COVID, a lot of people can't do it face-to-face. So they're obviously moving there. So don't expect it to book in tomorrow and get it done, because St. John's, I think, had a 2-month wait list. Is that all really clear? If not, please just pop a question in and we'll get to them at the end and make sure we answer them all. Over to you, Veets.
Cool. Thanks, Beck. Yeah, so what we're going to cover today is the theory side of coaching, and then obviously we'll have to do a practical in some way. So we're going to talk about judo coaching, basic coaching principles. We're going to talk about soft skills in coaching. We're going to talk about long-term athlete development and a little bit about dojo safety. Okay, nice and simple. You guys have all been through this before, so we're going to smash it out. Nothing challenging. Cool. All right. So as Beck mentioned, because you guys are coaches judo and senior coaches, there is an element of periodization that we need to cover. we're figuring out how to do that. I've got some lecture slides, and it'll probably be me recording myself on Zoom, which sounds super fun for you guys watching me talk to myself on Zoom. But it's just, once again, a case of we got to tick this box, and we got to do that. Then, oh, sorry, we're going back. The other thing we need to do is, as per usual in the practicals, we need to do teaching technique, teaching children, doing warm-ups, and a game. And hopefully, because we have more time, because normally we do the theory on the day as well. Because we're doing the theory now, we'll have more time on the mat and on the actual day that we do practical coaching accreditation, which means we can do some Goku revision on the day as well. Okay, so this is where I'm going to let you guys talk a little bit, because it's a small group, so a little bit of cross-pollination is healthy. So judo coaching, is it an art or is it a science? Just any ideas? For me personally, I think it's a little bit of both, but yeah, because I think, say I'm coaching Pedro and Pedro is having a problem with something, or something went wrong, then we look at creative ways to find a solution to that problem. But also, as we're about to cover a whole bunch of coaching principles, sports science is also very important. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Awesome. First thing we want to talk about is feedback. All right. So feedback is kind of when we're communicating with athletes or with students, we've got to give them feedback. And we also receive feedback. You guys are going to give us feedback after this as well. So feedback can be positive and negative. Generally speaking, we want more positive feedback than negative. But for example, Diego's training and I say, hey, Diego, that was great. Or Diego's training, hey, Diego, you need to do a little bit more of this. Okay. Extrinsic and intrinsic. So for example, Ben's doing Uchikomi and he's going, okay, this feels really good. It feels right. That's intrinsic. That's from within. Extrinsic is when someone says, hey, Ben, you need to pull more, or hey, Ben, a little bit slower and get it right. From an outside source is extrinsic. So terminal and concurrent. So for example, I've had the pleasure of coaching Pedro in competition, and he's a great competitor, so it was an absolute honor. But terminal would be after the fight, he comes off the mat and says, hey, that was good, or we need to work on this. Concurrent would be while he's competing, I'm giving him instructions or giving him feedback from the side. Okay, and the last two, knowledge of performance and knowledge of results. This is a big one, especially particularly in coaching kids and particularly with competitors, because I think the tendency in a sport like judo with competitors is to focus on results, whereas result is ultimately out of our control. Like you can have the best day, you can fight to your absolute maximum potential and the results still might not go your way. But what you can maximize and what we should be aiming to maximize with our athletes and our students is improving their performance. Yeah, that makes sense to everyone?
Yep.
We're happy? Awesome. Okay, there we go. We're back to this slide. So we're going to talk about learning styles. So once again, I know you guys have done this before, so we'll breeze through it. So you have 4 basic learning styles. You have active learners who learn by doing and by feeling. You have reflectors who learn by feeling and observing. You have theorists who learn by thinking about a problem and observing. And you have pragmatists who are thinking while they're doing. So I have an example of this. I think a few of you guys on the call know my brother. I know Diego definitely does, but yeah, when I was growing up, my brother was naturally my training partner, and he's a theorist and I'm an active learner. I just want to do it. I just want to get on with it. Whereas he He wants to understand why something works before he does it. So obviously when we were training partners, this caused a little bit of friction where the coach would demonstrate something and say, okay, go do that. And my brother would be going, oh, why does he do this? And I'd be going, mate, just shut up. We're here to train. Let's just do it, you know? So obviously there was there was a bit of friction between my brother and I when we were growing up and training together. So JB or John Buckley, I think you all know John Buckley, I imagine. John Buckley sent me a document about coaching recently, and he had a nice little saying, or like nice little piece of information that covered this. So when we're showing a technique, we explain, we demonstrate, we practice, we correct, and we give feedback. So that kind of covers all those learning styles. Okay. Also, especially with the feeling part, as a coach, I know when I'm coaching and I can see something is not quite right, but I can't pinpoint it, I'll often get the athlete or the student to do the technique on me, and then automatically I can feel what's going wrong. So that feeling part is something that personally works for me quite well. So obviously with learning styles, when we have a practical segment in this is where this comes to fruition, as you're going to have to demonstrate a technique and you're going to have to communicate to different people who learn in different ways. All right. We're smashing through this, guys. All right, so we've got coaching styles. Okay, so coaching styles is autocratic, laissez-faire, and democratic. So autocratic is like, I'm the boss, do what I say. Okay. Democratic is I'm still the boss, but there's a little more give back. And laissez-faire is when we're equals. So, for example, if I'm running a kids class, which coaching style should I use? What do you think?
Depending on how small the kids are, you might have to be a bit autocratic to keep them under control and just get them to listen.
100%, 100%. It's, you know, when you're coaching kids, you don't want to be laissez-faire, right? You don't want to be equals with the kids. You got to let them know you're boss in order to kind of control them. If I'm running a state training, what do you think? Which coaching style would it be?
You're still the boss. I'd go democratic.
It's to be honest, when I'm running a state training, it's pretty much autocratic as well. It's the two opposite sides of the spectrum, but both are autocratic. Democratic, when I'm running a session at my club, it's very democratic. It's like, okay, look, this is our focus. Is there anything else you guys want to do? You know, should we play a game at the end? Yeah. And I know Pedro does a lot of one-on-ones with people. And Pedro, would you say one-on-ones are laissez-faire? It's because it's just you and your student one-on-one. It's a very equal relationship, right? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So that's coaching styles done. Any comments, questions?
No.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so long-term athlete development. This is a model designed kind of from Eastern Europe, training principles on getting people to reach their physical potential. I know it looks like the image we have here, it looks like we're trying to create athletes, which we are, but I want you to think about it as getting people to reach their physical potential rather than, oh, we're trying to create athletes. Because, you know, everyone's judo journey is different. Not everyone wants to go to an Olympics or be an athlete. That's once again one of these things I started learning as I became a coach, because I was a competitive guy, and then I went into coaching, and suddenly it's like, hang on a minute, no one wants to train the way I used to train, because, you know, it's like club session. Yeah. So long-term athlete development is pretty much when kids are young, you want them to play a lot, and you don't want to be very sports specific. Okay, you want them to move in as many ways as possible, and yeah, like you get them moving in different ways. Develop those ABCs, so agility, balance, coordination, and speed. That's what you want to do at a younger age. And as they get a little bit older, you start introducing more sport specific skills, but basically you're keeping it very simple, like very kind of generalized at a young age, very general training. Because until they kind of hit adolescence, you just want to develop physical literacy. You want them to be able to move in as many different ways as possible. And then you want to start getting more specific and specializing in sport at that adolescent age and older. So for example, we want to think about age relevant training. For example, if you have a group of kids, and you're trying to do static uchikomi, is that going to work? Is that going to be beneficial? Because kids have a very short attention span. They'll probably do 2 or 3 uchikomi, and then the rest goes, doesn't really work, and they're training bad muscle memory. Also, if you have a young kid and they haven't developed their balance yet, they can't stand on one leg, is it a good idea to try to teach them osotogari? If they can't stand on one leg, how are they meant to throw a person on one leg? So like Warren Rosser, who runs the kids sessions at UNSW Judo, I help him a little bit, but he's definitely the expert with kids. So quite often we have conversations where we don't actually teach any throws until about age 6. And then we teach taitoshi off the knees. Once again, it's age relevant. And we kind of have a saying, let's turn them into athletes and then teach them judo. So once again, we're just trying to get them to move and get them as strong as possible and as fast as possible. And then when they're actually able to kind of take a little bit more training, then we introduce them, we start doing more judo with them. And that kind of leads on to the next thing, which is strength development. So strength development is kind of suggested that we should start the kind of traditional view was that we should start strength training with athletes at about age 14 and up. But adaptation to strength work happens at any age. And in terms of work, if we're going to work with kids are getting cardiovascular training and aerobic training. They're getting that at PE. They're getting that when they play at the park with their friends. We don't, as judo coaches, I don't think we need to focus on the cardio part of thing. I think we need to make them stronger, because a stronger kid is a more confident kid, is a kid who can do better judo. So I've got this nice little slide here. I love this image. This is like a 2-year-old doing a perfect squat. And quite often I run 3- and 4-year-olds classes, and we have kids and they can do squats like this. And for some reason, I've got 13-year-olds who can't do a squat, and it's like kind of, well, they obviously haven't been practicing that motor neuron skill for those past 10 years, because they can't do something that they're naturally born with. So yeah, this is a nice little image that I liked. I'm not saying, by the way, do weight training with kids. I'm just saying strength training. This big difference. But yeah, this is my favorite picture in the whole slide. Well, I know adults who can't do a squat that good. Yeah. We'll go back one. So we're talking about specialization at a later age. So especially in Australia, culturally, kids play a lot of sports, which has actually been proven to lead to better athletes in the future. You could argue, so you kind of, like traditionally what this kind of model is saying, that kids should specialize in their green part, training to train, that's when they should start picking their sport, and not before that. You could argue because judo uses every muscle group, and it kind of requires balance, strength, power, agility, it kind of involves everything. You could kind of argue that judo, if you are to specialize in a sport, judo is probably good for you. But I think judo, gymnastics, and wrestling are the kind of sports that if you play those sports as a kid, you're going to be good at all sports. Any comments, questions on that? No? Cool. We'll move on. We're happy. I'm happy. Cool. Yeah. Kid doing an impressive squat. All right. So that's long-term development done. So we're going to talk about a little bit about soft coaching skills. So judo is more than a sport, as Beck's already talked about the principles of judo: courtesy, courage, friendship, honesty, honor, modesty, respect, and control. So that this comes full circle then. So when we're teaching people, when we're communicating with our athletes, we're more than just teaching them a sport, we're teaching them a way of life and improving them as people. So this is, we're inspiring them, we're empowering them. So Kano said, when we're training, we're bringing benefit to ourselves, to our training partner, but also to society. Also IJF say judo is more than a sport, it's a way of life. And it really is. So this is kind of like one of my favorite feelings as a coach. I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite feelings as a coach is when someone says, I can't do something, and you get them to do it and they achieve it. That's personally one of my favorite feelings as a coach. And I had a last little bit on this slide. I had a conversation with Ben Broadhead, who's the coach at Illawarra International. And the conversation was like, judo sets you up really well for life. No matter what happens, you get a grip and do your best. And I really like that. So, yeah. Any comments there, guys? Cool. All right. So a little bit on lesson planning. So the coaching process, your athlete or your student performs at training, at competition, doesn't matter where they perform. You observe it, you analyze it, you compare it to how they've previously done. Have they improved? Have they got worse? And then based on that, you implement, you plan your next training session, and then you implement the plan, which is a nice little feedback loop to the athlete performs again. So that's what we kind of comes full circle to the first question I asked you guys. Is judo an art or a science? This is where that comes in, because you're having to plan your sessions. Are you going to be creative? How are you going to do it? All right, so we have goals. So athletes have goals, and when we're creating sessions, or students have goals, when we're creating our plans, when we're planning our lessons, we should think about what the athlete or what the student want out of it. Okay, so an example would be, so also one thing I should mention, I personally write down every lesson plan. Just that's me personally, but I know people who don't write lesson plans down, but they still have a lesson plan in their head. I think we should always have lesson plans. Doesn't matter if you write them down or not. I always do, but yeah. All right, anyway, we'll go back to goals. So goals have to be smarter. So specific, measurable, agreed, recorded, timed, exciting, and realistic. Okay, so specific goal would be rather than me saying, I want to get good at judo, I say, I want to improve my Murata Seoinage. Okay, a measurable goal would be, instead of saying, I want to get anaerobically fitter, I say, I want to be able to do 30 nagikomi in 1 minute. Okay, agreed. So like a classic one is, this comes back to communication again. If I have an athlete or a student, I need to know what they want out of this relationship. Okay, so there's a functional kind of coach-student relationship is where both the goals of the coach for the student and the student's particular individual goals are aligned. So there's no point me coaching Pedro. Pedro wants to win a national title, and I'm going, oh yeah, he needs to improve his kata. That's never going to work, right? It's kind of got to be, the goals have to be in sync. Okay, so they have to be recorded. Pretty self-explanatory. With all my kind of competitors and my club at UNSW Judo, I coach all the competitors, and at the start of the year, I get them to write down a goal list for the year. No matter what it is, they all put it down, and that helps me with my lesson planning. Okay, timed goals always help. So rather than saying, I want to get a black belt one day, one of your students may say, I want to get a black belt in the next 2 years. Okay, exciting. Once again, the goal has to be exciting for both the student and the coach. So, you both want to be motivated. This should be something that motivates you. So, for example, a lot of people, a lot of your students maybe want to get their black belt or want to compete or want to do kata, whatever it is. It needs to be an exciting goal. Okay. And realistic. So goals have to be realistic. So a few years ago, I was in Italy training. I was trying to qualify for the Rio Olympics, and I got a message from a guy in New Zealand. And it was just, he kind of sent me a message saying, hey, do you mind? I've got some, are you open to giving me some judo advice? And I said, yeah, sure. And the first question I said, well, what are your goals? And he kind of said he'd been doing judo for 2 years. He was 33 years old, and he said, I want to go to the Rio or the Tokyo Olympics. Is that a realistic goal? Well, probably not, no. Okay, so we talked about goals, and we've already talked about planning a lesson. So it's now relating the lesson plan to the goal. So, if your athletes are competing in a competition in 2 weeks' time, how are you going to plan for that in your lesson? Are you going to do short, sharp randori rounds? Probably. Are you going to do 30 minutes running around the mat as a warm up? Maybe not. Okay. Then the next thing is relating warm-ups to your lesson plan. So one thing that I do come across is whenever I go to different clubs, a lot of them do the same warm-up week in, week out, which is but they're changing their lesson goals and they're changing their lesson structure for the rest of the lesson. So I think, for an example is if I'm working on Uchimata with my students, I want to do for my warm-up, I might include a whole bunch of single leg stability drills. If I'm doing Sumigaishi with my students, my warm-up is probably going to include backwards rolls. If I'm doing Seoinage with my students, there's probably going to be some squat element to the warm-up to prime and get the muscles ready for Seoinage. Yeah. Does that make sense, everyone? We're happy?
Yep.
Yeah. So I have some templates for lesson plans that we'll send to you eventually. We're still kind of working on that, but yeah, so you'll get them as kind of part of your practical element, and that way you can share them with each other, and this is all about learning from each other. So you'll get those sent to you sometime soon too. Okay. Last, but definitely not least, in fact, probably the most important, we're going to talk about dojo safety. So everything we've already talked about age relevant training, and I've already mentioned knee taitoshi, that we teach, taitoshi off the knees for 5-year-olds. Why do we do that? Because they're not confident in their breakfalls yet, and they actually don't have the physical ability to hold their head up when they fall. So that's why we take a little bit of impact out of the throw for 5-year-olds for safety. Okay. So we've already talked again, Beck's already talked about, we want an inclusive, comfortable environment. And that's where safety comes in too, in all forms. So we don't want people, obviously it's a combat sport, injuries do happen, but as much as you can, you want to prevent injuries at the club. So simple example, at UNSW, we don't have the biggest dojo in the world. We only have 6 pairs doing randori maximum at the same time, just for that exact safety reason, so they don't clatter into each other and stuff. We're currently living in a global pandemic, and I know that New South Wales health regulations are changing on a daily basis, but as coaches, we need to keep on top of that and make sure we do not do anything that is not allowed at a particular point in time. So yeah, that's why that little QR code is set up, just to remind us of that. And the one really good thing about COVID is all the dojos have got a whole bunch cleaner, because after every training session, we got to clean our dojos. And we're really positive, Beck was already talking to me today about the positives out from COVID. That's a really big positive of COVID. Everyone's got a spotless judo club now. Yeah. So yeah, that's all from me. I'll give it back to you, Beck. Thanks, guys. I know it's a little bit boring me just talking to myself, but I hope you guys enjoyed that.
It was good, bud.
Yeah, well done, mate. It's not easy being a presenter, I don't think, especially when, you know, it's not new. It's kind of just updating. So just on that, guys, I'll quickly finish off with the things you need to do. You will already have in your inbox the email with all the links because I just sent it to you. So yeah, if there's anything missing, please let me know, but we seem to have everything covered. So probably the big thing outside of all those courses and just sending us an email with your certificates once you've got them. Simi, the superstar, feeds all this into RevSport, is just make sure you send us a note to say, hey, here's 40 hours of my coaching that I've done over the last 4 years, which I'm sure you'll have all ticked off very nicely. And for the senior coaches as well, we need to do a practical application. So given that we are having some success here, what I'm going to do for Veets to make his life easier is put together some times, and then you'll be able to book in with him. So otherwise he's going to be doing it. He's got nearly 60 people that he's got to get through if we choose to do it this way. And he's certainly not going to be able to do it alone. So Veets, I think it's probably time to put out to the universe that if there are other people who are able to assess, given that we can't do it all on the mat just yet, we'd certainly love a hand because we really want to get you through, but it's going to be a capacity issue as well. So if you can help us, we would absolutely love it. And we do actually pay for this time as well. So,
so one idea was as well that Gabriel, who I did accreditation for yesterday, put forward is if you don't have the capacity, like you don't have anyone you can coach at home, or what you can do is via a Zoom call, coach someone else, coach his family, for example, in a Zoom call. So, and that way we can just tick off the accreditation because we got to get this stuff done.
Yeah, but we'll, if you don't have anyone to, we can, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Like we are just being so creative with everything right now, but making sure we're not compromising on any quality as well. So that's probably the big thing that we'll keep an eye on. So that's that part. If you have any problems, please reach out. Happy to help. I'm working obviously all week. So you've ticked off stage 1. You'll have all the links to the online modules, which you'll do yourself. Look, we're looking for the end of October to just, give yourself that time to get booked in with Veets or whoever it's going to be, and aiming to have you all ticked off by the start of November, because that's a nice kind of break then over Christmas, and then we can really hit the ground running as an organisation into the new year, which is where our growth targets are set and focused on. I don't think we'd be crazy to put any effort into marketing and things like that now to get people into your clubs, because there's just a bit too much unknown. In saying that, I did send a note if you didn't get it as a club owner or the key contact about returning to the mat. There are some public health orders in place which we support, mainly because we can't not support them. It's not our position to tell people, the New South Wales government, that what we will and won't do. So essentially, it's if your LGA is open, your dojo can reopen as long as everyone is double vaxxed and you adhere to all the COVID plans that you have in place, including social distancing and mask wearing. I mean, that's a very kind of bit of a snapshot of it. We don't have any jurisdiction at all to change those rules, to give exemptions or anything like that. If you want to take it on, the best people to speak with are the Office of Sport. Lots of rumours going around at the moment around community sport not being able to return. That is competition of community sport. So sporting facilities are able to open, but I do encourage you all to check locally with your own venues to know what rules they're going to have in place. One guy's already said the PCYCs are not going to open straight away. So just check individual circumstances, and look, if you're hunting for a venue or something, please reach out. We have a tremendous network amongst us all. And if we have to join forces for a few of them, then so be it, we will. But yeah, I'm really excited to see everyone getting back on the mat as soon as possible in a safe way. And we just have to get on with it then and really work hard. So that's it from me. Debbie, who's not Debbie, I didn't catch your real name. That's
Shane
all.
Holmes.
Shane. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so good luck. If you need anything else from us, please just reach out. But if not, go and enjoy what is an absolutely beautiful day outside as much as you can. Yeah. Beats, anything else?
No, thanks everyone. Thanks for letting me talk. I'm a talker.
You are now.
Yeah. I hope you all got something out of that. Once again, if you have the capacity to coach someone over Zoom with me supervising, we can organize that. Pete, I think Gabe mentioned that. Yeah, so we'll have a trial of that sometime in the next week if you want, mate.
Yeah, just organise a time and let's get it ticked off.
Yeah,
well,
cool.
It's actually a good test because some clubs have been doing Zoom lessons. So it's not actually that far from the truth right now. So
yeah. As you can see, I just left a mat and put a chair in here for the non-active Zoom sessions.
Good one. All right, I'm going to let you go, guys. I've got a garden to build, so enjoy.
Cheers.
All right, see you guys.
What are you doing with us?
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Was a great opportunity to see everyone. I hope to see everyone back on the mat soon. Thanks, Professor Zach. Thanks, Max. Really nice to meet you, and I like your hat.
I like my hat too with the hat on. See you guys. Thanks, Pedro. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Yell out if you have any questions as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.